Good morning, Year 5. Welcome to Thursday's English lesson. Today, we are going to be beginning to write our sentence description. Now, we're going to be doing this over 2 days. We're going to be doing it over Thursday and Friday. That way, you've not got that much to write each day, but it means that you can make the sentences that you do write each day the best that they can possibly be. So you've got lots and lots of time, so our brains don't get too overloaded, because I know writing can be tricky. I find it tricky too sometimes. Okay, so you've got lots and lots of time to really think about what you are writing today to get it perfect. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen so we can see what we're doing today. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the week, but what we are going to be doing this week is we're going to be using our dad waivers structure. Now, if you think back to before half term, before the Christmas holidays, we actually had a go at writing our first dad waivers, and we did such an amazing job. Miss Sarton and I were so impressed at your writing that we thought we'll try again with our setting for our story in the Himalayas. Okay, so we're going to be using our dad waivers structure again. So old learning is going to be retrieved because we've already had a go at using one of these, and it is why, so we can write our own setting description. Now, just before we get started, just to get our brains working, just to kind of switch our brains on a little bit, I want you to have a look for me at my sentence here. Now, what is wrong with this sentence and how could you correct it? So please can you pause the video now for me and have a go at correcting my sentence? Wonderful. Hopefully you've had a go at this. So I'm looking at my sentence. I'm going to read it first to see what our sentence is saying. So it's saying, deep in the Himalayas, on the summit of the mountain, I peered nervously at the vertical drop below. Sounds like a pretty nice sentence. However, I'm missing some bits from it. Okay, so start of my sentence always begins with a capital letter. We all know that. We can all do that. Sometimes we forget. Okay, deep in the Himalayas on the summit of the mountain. Now, the Himalayas is the name of a place. It is a proper noun. So what does a proper noun need at the beginning of it? Hopefully, you're telling me that it needs a capital letter. Okay, I'm really hoping at home you are talking to your screen and you are telling me just like you would in class. Wonderful. So I've got deep in the Himalayas on the summit of the mountain. I peered nervously at the vertical drop below. Now, here I've had a little go using what we used yesterday, where we used 2, or you could have used 3, fronted adverbials to describe where. Now, we need to remember that after our fronted adverbials, they both need a comma. Okay, so I've got one after my first one, and then another one after my second one to separate it from the rest of our sentence. Okay, I'm just going to read my sentence back, check that I'm happy with it. Yep, got my capital letters, got my commas. Wonderful. Okay, so there I've just kind of got my brain engaged, starting to think about what I need to do when I'm writing my sentences. Now, we're going to be using dad waivers today, and we're going to be building on what we've done so far this week. So we're going to be building on all of our work about our setting description. Now, you have already done a lot of the hard work for this, because you've already collected some really good descriptive language and started thinking about what you can see, what you can smell, what you can hear, and what you can feel when you are in your setting. We've also already written some fronted adverbials that we can use today to start our sentences off. So, in front of you, in fact, you might just want to get your fronted adverbials that you did yesterday, because we're going to start off with those. So we've got a good start point today. And then you might also want to get, in fact, you definitely want to get your descriptive language that you collected to describe your scene. Okay, this is going to help you because we collected this so that we've got some ideas and some language that we can put in our writing today. Okay, so I'm going to have both of those in front of me as I write my setting description, and that's going to help me. It doesn't mean that I have to use everything that I've already collected. It doesn't mean that I can't use different things as well. This is going to be a good start point for me. Okay, I'm not just starting from scratch. We've done a lot of work already this week to build up to this point. So make sure you make the most of that and use that. So I'm going to go back a slide. Today, like I said, we are going to be using our dad waivers. Now, like I said, we're not going to do all of the dad waivers in one day. We're going to split them in half. So today, we're just going to do dadwa. So we're only going to write 4 sentences, but those sentences are going to be amazing, okay? Because we have got lots of time and energy to put into those sentences. So we're just going to do dadwa. So let's make a start then. So just before I actually start writing, what I like to do when I'm kind of thinking about what I'm going to write is I kind of like to plan it out in my head a little bit. If I'm thinking now, I've got 9 sentences to write all together. I'm kind of thinking in my head, where do I want to go with this setting description? Because if I go in straight away and I start talking about, I don't know, something quite specific in the setting, like the river or maybe the animals, then I've not really got anywhere to go after that. I kind of want to start to describe my setting quite broadly, okay? And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm just going to pause my video and I'm going to put my visualizer on so you can see what I am beginning to write. Wonderful. So I've got my visualizer all set up. I've written my heading, setting description, just so I know what I've got in this part of my book. Obviously, you don't have blogs at home, which we usually would. Okay, now I'm going to start thinking about my description. Now, when I'm describing my setting, like I just said, I don't want to go in straight away and talk about something specific in that setting. I want to start quite broad by describing where I am. So what I'm going to do to help me is I've already written some front adverbials yesterday, and I'm going to use them to describe where I am. So I'm going to go with, I'm just using my work from yesterday, I'm not doing anything new now, I'm just copying it out. Beneath the towering peaks of the mountains. Okay, because I'm in a woodland that's at the bottom of the Himalayas in kind of like the valley, amongst the forest of ancient trees. Right, so there I've got my fronted adverbials. So I've got beneath the towering peaks, oh, I forgot to cross my T, of the mountains amongst the forest of ancient trees. However, that's not a whole sentence yet because I've not got a subject and I've not got a predicate. So I'm thinking quite generally about what I want to describe now. So it could be something about the height of the mountains or the denseness of the forest. Okay, I'm going to start kind of describing quite broadly. I'm going to describe the woodland. I'm running out of room on the end. The woodland was alive with, so I kind of want to get I kind of want to communicate to the reader that my woodland is it's quite peaceful, but also there is lots and lots of different things going on, okay, all of the different nature. So I'm going to go with alive with the sights and sounds of rural India. Okay, however, I kind of want an adjective to describe that. I'm going to go with mesmerizing. I like this word, mesmerizing. You can probably tell I use it quite a lot. Okay, with the mesmerizing sights and sounds of rural India. Oh, and I've just made a mistake there because I've not done a capital I. Just going to change that. India, even though India is a proper noun. Full stop. Okay, so there is my first sentence. So let's just read it back. Oh, just need to stop my eye. Beneath the towering peaks of the mountains, amongst the forest of ancient trees, the woodland was alive with mesmerizing sights and sounds of rural India. In fact, I think I'm going to add a word to make it make a bit more sense. I think I'm just going to put with the mesmerizing sights and sounds of rural India. Okay, so I've started with my front adverbials I'd already written yesterday, and then I have added a subject and a predicate. Okay, the woodland was alive. Okay, I've actually got a subordinate clause here because I've got with the mesmerizing sights and sounds of rural India. You don't have to go that far if you don't want to, but you can. Can you have a go now then and seeing if you can write your first sentence to describe where you are? Okay, so you're going to use your front adverbials, then you're going to say what is happening. It could be about, could be that you were standing on top of the summit of the mountain. Okay, remembering you're writing from Asher's perspective, so you can write in first person if you like to. Okay, it could be something like, beneath the peaks of the mountains, amongst the forest of ancient trees, I stared into the darkness of the forest. Okay, we're just introducing where we are. We're not going too deep into the details of the setting. Pause the video now and have a go. See if you can write your first sentence. Wonderful. Right, hopefully you've come up with a really fantastic first sentence to draw your reader into your setting. Now we're going to move on to our A, which is action. Now in your action, you need to have a verb, because a verb is a doing word. Okay, so you can be thinking about what's happening in your setting. Now, I'm thinking, because I'm kind of going with the theme, I'm zooming in on my setting. So I've started quite broad. I'm just talking about quite generally about the sights and the sounds. I'm going to talk now, I think, about the weather. But I'm going to give the weather an action. So I'm going to go with the sunlight. Thinking back to my scene, it was snowy, but it was also sunny as well. Okay, I want to create that image for the reader of it being kind of cold and crisp, but sunny. Okay, so I'm going with the sunlight poured. Imagining being in a forest. I've never been to a forest in the Himalayas, but I have been to a forest in other places, and I can imagine the sunlight pouring through the leaves. Okay, but I'm going to go with pouring through the forest. And this is a word that I got from the Descriptosaurus. Possessive apostrophe, canopy. Okay, so describing how the leaves are kind of making a canopy above. And, I'm going to go with the coordinated conjunction. The sunlight poured through the forest canopy, and what else did it do? Well, I'm again taking from the Descriptosaurus, it danced. Bit of personification there. Danced on the leaves below. Now, I could end there, but I still kind of want the reader to get this idea of it's crisp and cold and sunny. Okay, because I want this forest to be kind of a wintry forest. I want it to have kind of a bit of an element of it's going to be a bit dangerous soon because it's very cold. Okay, so I'm going to go with the sunlight poured through the forest canopy and danced on the leaves below, but now I'm going to talk about how cold it is. The air was still bitterly cold. Not just cold, bitterly cold. Biting, I'll use a bit of a simile here. Biting at our cheeks. It bite at our cheeks like, well, I'm thinking about something that's really sharp and cold, and then go biting at our cheeks like razor blades. Okay, so I know we haven't done a specific focus on figurative language this week, but you could take your learning from last week of similes and metaphors and apply it into this learning. Okay, so the sunlight poured through the forest canopy and danced on the leaves below, but the air was still bitterly cold, biting at our cheeks like razor blades. Can you have a go now at describing an action then in your story? Now, I think it would be a good idea if you want to kind of follow my structure, you could do it about the weather. So it might be about the wind, the rain, the sunlight, the snow. Okay, I think that would be quite a good idea. That way, we're kind of still talking quite generally about our setting. We're not getting too specific yet. Pause the video now and have a go at your sentence. Wonderful. Hopefully you've had a go at describing that, and maybe you've done it about the weather. If you want to go a little bit off piste and you want to do something a bit different, that's up to you. Wonderful. So we've done da. Now we need to do another da because we're on to dad. So second da stands for dialogue, and dialogue just means speech. So when you are writing your speech, you need to think about who's going to be there when you're writing your story. And who's going to be there? Well, it's going to be Asher and Jeevan. Now, Asher probably isn't going to include speech that she said herself because we're writing it from her perspective. So she's not going to say, Asher said this, because she is Asher. but she is with Jeevan. So I'd like you all to write your speech as if Jeevan was saying it, please. Okay, so everyone needs to write it from Jeevan's perspective, but it's up to you what you want Jeevan to say. Now, in my story, I'm kind of picturing they're in this kind of snowy woodland. It's very cold. It's a little bit mysterious. I think Jeevan's feeling a bit nervous. Okay, so I'm going to start my speech with my inverted commas. And I'm going to say, what is Jeevan saying? Well, he's saying, I don't think we should go in any further, Asha. He's getting a bit worried, remembering that these children are from their little village in the Himalayas. They might not have been this far away from home before. Quite a new place for them. They're probably feeling a little bit nervous, remembering Asha needs a capital letter because it is a name. Right, before I finish my speech, I need to make sure I've got some punctuation in there, so I'm going to use a full stop to stop my sentence, and then my inverted commas. Okay, Jeevan. Now, I don't really want to just say Jeevan said, because that's a little bit boring. I want to kind of show but not tell the reader how Jeevan is feeling. So I'm going to say, and I think I've taken this. Did I take it off here? Yes. Okay, so I've got some examples there to help you. I'm going to say Jeevan pleaded, because he's pleading with Asha. He's kind of begging her. He's saying, actually, I really don't think we should go any further, Asha. Okay, Jeevan pleaded. Beginning, I'm going to describe what Jeevan is looking right now. If you look, and more, now, I think that Jeevan is beginning to look more and more worried, but I want a better word than worried. What better word could I use? Well, I might go with that emotion word, anxious, because that is how Jeevan is feeling right now. He's feeling a bit anxious. Okay, full stop. So I've got inverted commas, I don't think we should go in any further, Asha, full stop, inverted commas, Jeevan pleaded, beginning to look more and more anxious. Okay, so there I've got my dialogue. Now, it doesn't have to be about Jeevan pleading to go back. It might be that Jeevan's saying, I think this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Or it might be Jeevan saying, I've never been so cold in my life. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be him being worried. Okay, it could just be a statement that he's making about where he is at the moment. Okay, it could be, I've never been this far away from home before, Asha. Okay, so have a little think about what you want Jeevan to say, and then I want you to have a go at writing this sentence, remembering your inverted commas and your punctuation within your speech. Okay, have a go at that for me now, and then you can play when you're ready to do our last sentence of the day. Wonderful. Hopefully you've had a go at that. Now we're going to do our last one of the day. So we've done dad, now we're going to do where. Okay, so we're going to do where. And here we're going to use another fronted adverbial or adverbial phrase to describe where we are. But I'm going to zoom in a little bit now. So I've talked quite generally. I've said where we are. We're in the forest, the bottom of the mountains, the sights, and there's lots of sights and can't get my words out, sights and sounds. It's sunny, but it's really cold. Jeevan's feeling worried. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more about what I can see. So I think, looking back at my picture, I'm going to start to describe the pine trees, okay, because the pine trees are quite an important part of our forest. So I'm going to start with a fronted adverbial, and I'm going to go with a where. So I'm going stretched out as far as the eye could see. Okay, because that's telling the reader that this forest is very, very big and it kind of doesn't have an end almost. Okay, so that's telling me where. Stretched out as far as the eye could see, comma, because I remember I've got to separate my adverbial phrase from the rest of my sentence. Now I'm going to talk about the pine trees. Now, how do I want to describe them? Well, I think I'm going to use that word magnificent. Okay, because they are very grand and tall and they've been there for years and years. The magnificent pine trees So that's my subject. Now I'm thinking, what do I want to say about my magnificent pine trees? Well, actually, I think I want to kind of describe how they're covered in snow because we're in the middle of winter. Okay, now in my descriptosaurus, I saw this word cloaked in this phrase, cloaked in snow. So I'm going to use that one. Just a little bit of an up level than covered in snow. It kind of creates this, kind of personifies them a little bit because it's making us think that they're kind of like people wearing cloaks. We're cloaked in snow until, I'm going to use a subordinating conjunction here, so can you, oh, I've done the wrong, shouldn't be crossing my L's, until the winter sun began to warm them. Wonderful, full stop. So I've used an fronted adverbial, so as far as the eye could see, stretched out as far as the eye could see, the magnificent pine trees were cloaked in snow until the winter sun began to warm them. So I've used there as well, oops, I'm missing off a bit of my writing. I've used there as well a subordinating conjunction to make a subordinate clause. So you can see I've got quite a lot going on in this sentence. I've got adverbial phrase, subject is the magnificent pine trees, predicate were cloaked in snow, subordinating conjunction until the winter sun began to warm them. Okay, so can you have a go now then at using another fronted adverbial to describe another part of your scene? Wonderful. Right, hopefully you've had a go at that. I'm just going to pause my video so I can move my visualizer. Wonderful. So that's everything that we're going to do today. So I'm just going to read you mine back so you can hear it one more time. So beneath the towering peaks of the mountains, amongst the forests of ancient trees, the woodland was alive with the mesmerizing sights and sounds of rural India. The sunlight poured through the forest canopy and danced on the leaves below, but the air was still bitterly cold, biting at our cheeks like razor blades. I don't think we should go any further, Asher, Jeevan pleaded, beginning to look more and more anxious. Stretched out as far as the eye could see, the magnificent pine trees were cloaked in snow until the winter sun began to warm them. So hopefully you have something that's a little bit similar to mine, but it's describing your own scene. Now, if you want to now, just like I said last week, you can go back and you can make little changes if you like. If you spot any mistakes, you can change those. But also if you kind of, after you kind of got to the end point today, you might realise actually you might want to tweak a few words at the beginning. That is absolutely fine. That is all part of the writing process. It's constantly going back and having a look at what we've done so far. If you send us a picture of your writing so far today, I know we're not finished yet, that would be great so we can see how you've done and we can give you a bit of feedback moving forward for tomorrow when we carry on with our dad weavers, when we're going to do the Avas bit. Okay, so we've only got a few more sentences left to write. Can't wait to see what you've done so far, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.